The concept of planning for your retirement when you're in your 20s or 30s can seem out of place because often it's something that we associate with those more advanced in their careers. But the reality is that some of the smartest retirement planners are those who get a start early on. And that's because it allows them to take advantage of a force that Albert Einstein is rumored to have called the most powerful force in the universe: compounding. But what exactly is compounding, and what does it have to do with retirement planning? Well, to answer this question, imagine this scenario. You've got two people, Marge and Albert. Now, Marge and Albert have the exact same jobs, make the exact same amount of money, but they have very different philosophies when it comes to saving for retirement. Marge, the day she turns 25, decides that she's going to start stashing away $10,000 a year in a portfolio of stocks and bonds. And she can do this because maybe she's living at home or she's really conservative with her spending. But see, the day she turns 35, she stops putting anything in there for the next 30 years. Albert's the exact opposite. For his first 10 years, he doesn't put anything in there, but the day that he turns 35, that's when he starts putting in $10,000 a year. But the difference is, instead of stopping after 10 years like Marge did, he keeps going for the full 30 years until he's 65. So what you have is, at the end of all of this, Marge will have put in $100,000 towards her retirement, and Albert will have put in 3 times as much. So here's the question. Let's say both of their portfolios return an average of 7% a year, which is close to the long-term average for stocks. Who would have more money in their bank account at age 65 when they go to open it? Well, the answer is the size of their bank accounts at age 65 would be, beginning with Albert, roughly $1 million. His $300,000 would more than triple over the course of the 30 years that he's investing. But see, Marge would have $1.2 million, which means that she'll end up saving 20% more despite putting in 1/3 as much. How can this be? It's really counterintuitive. Well, the answer is that when it comes to investments, time is your best friend. So let's say we were to plot the value of their portfolios over this 40-year period. Marge's would look something like this, whereas Albert's would look something a little closer to this. For our purposes, the area to really focus in on is this first 10 years right here, because what's happened is Marge's portfolio during this time has grown from 0 to roughly $150,000. This is the $100,000 that she put in, plus the $50,000 in investment returns. Now here's the thing. Even though she's not putting in another dime from this point forward, that money, this $150,000, is still producing returns. It's still growing on top of itself. It's still working for her, or in other words, it's still compounding. But see, Albert, by the time he puts in his first dollar at year 10, he's already $150,000 behind. And so even though he's putting in more of his own money, it's not enough to catch up. So for this reason, it's really important to get started early on like Marge did. But there's another reason why it's really important, and that is inflation. Now, as you may know, inflation is when the dollar that you have today can buy you less stuff tomorrow. But here's a more concrete way of looking at it. In 1990, if you had had $40,000, this would have bought you 4 years of tuition at a private university. But let's say you were to fast forward just 20 years from this point to 2010. That same $40,000 would have bought you not 4, not 3, not 2, but 1 year of tuition at a private university. And this is just one example. It could apply to healthcare costs or energy, any number of things. But the point is, inflation erodes the value of your dollar. So go back to our example. If during this first 10 years, inflation were to run about 3% per year, which is close to the long-term average, Marge, by getting 7% returns, is outpacing inflation. Her money is growing faster than that, and so she's becoming wealthier every year. But Albert, by not investing anything during this time, not only is he not getting returns, but he's essentially getting 3% poorer every year. So to recap, why plan for retirement now? 2 key reasons. The first is it allows your money to start working for you, or compounding. And the second reason is it gives you a greater chance of outpacing inflation over time. So after you've decided to start planning for retirement early on, the question is, well, where do you put the money? Well, we discuss these answers in our videos on IRAs and 401ks. But the basic point is, when it comes to retirement planning, you can save yourself a lot of pain by getting started sooner rather than later.